The story begins on a sunny morning on March 2nd, 2030. On a busy street in Low City, a voice inside an office asks a young man if he can really afford to borrow such a large sum. Meanwhile, a man lights a cigarette and slowly exhales smoke. This man is Zhang Yang, the leader of the Ocean Gang and an underground moneylender. In a calm but warning tone, he tells his customer that his onions command high prices. Meanwhile, a frightened young man sitting opposite, wearing a blue hoodie, hesitantly says that he's even willing to pay a higher price if only he can get the loan. Then Zhang Yang leans forward. A predatory aura surrounds him, and he clearly states that the 5 million rupee loan will attract 40% interest. This means he must repay 7 million rupees in 6 months, along with immediate security. Upon hearing this, the nervous young man offers his house registry as security. Zhang Yang observes him carefully, but remains unimpressed, and casually declares that this old property is worth barely 3 million or 4 million rupees. With this, he begins to see the young man as an easy target. Then, without beating around the bush, he declares that a loan of 5 million rupees based solely on this house is simply impossible. Hearing this, the young man becomes even more helpless and practically begs for 4 million rupees. He also says that an astrologer had predicted his luck was extremely strong and he would double his money gambling. Hearing this, Zhang Yang becomes convinced that he is just a foolish gambler. So he makes his final offer of 3.5 million and clearly states that if he doesn't accept immediately, he will walk away from the deal. Then the young man's demeanor suddenly changes. A mad excitement flashes in his eyes, and he accepts the offer without a second thought. Zhang Yang then sets strict conditions. 4.9 million must be repaid within 3 months, or the house will be taken away. The young man agrees, but immediately his face hardens, and he looks the mafia boss straight in the eye and declares that he has a special condition. It takes only 10 minutes, and the deal is complete. Then a large thug politely escorts the young man out of the office. Upon leaving, the young man checks his phone and confirms that the 3.5 million has been transferred to his account. At that very moment, his nervous facade completely falls away. He scoffs and secretly calls the moneylender a fool because his thoughts now reveal the truth. He will never repay this loan. The reason is clear. The apocalypse is just a month away. He will use all this money to prepare for it because he doesn't want to relive the torment of his past life. He remembers his previous timeline when a massive solar flare hit Earth. The ecology was completely destroyed and temperatures reached 50 degrees C. A scorching 30-day apocalypse ensued. The world became a wasteland where mutated animals roamed the remains of humans. Meanwhile, inside the office, Zhang Yang, with the contract in hand, considers himself a winner. He thinks the borrower accepted such poor terms just for quick cash. He also comments that gamblers don't deserve a house. But his assistant standing behind him feels a little uneasy and points out that the house is worth more than 4 million won. Yet the man immediately agrees to just 3.5 million won. Maybe it's a trick. Zhang Yang simply brushes off the concern with a slight smile, saying that gamblers sell even their families for chips. A home is nothing to them. He then orders his assistant to conspire with the casino to extract everything the young man has. The assistant silently accepts the order. As evening approaches, Chan walks down the street, looking at his phone, amused by the thought that there are still good people in the world who lend money so easily. He doesn't worry about interest rates, because he borrowed from every moneylender in Lu City in a single day. With a wicked smile, he decides that now that he has the money in his hands, he won't pay back a single rupee. Then his thoughts drift to the future he longs to escape, a future where the earth has completely dried up, vegetation has vanished, and social order has completely collapsed. Resources were so scarce in that future that people fought mercilessly for even the fewest resources. Chan then remembers that those who control resources are the most powerful, and so he vows to become the king of the apocalypse this time. He remembers how billionaires and celebrities begged like dogs for a sausage or a little water, and how those who couldn't were left to die in agony in the sewers. Returning to the present, Chan stands confidently, thinking that after his rebirth, he now has plenty of time to implement all his plans before disaster strikes. Just then, his attention is drawn to a nearby noise. Two women at a shop are talking about an expensive ice cream brand and remarking on how expensive it is. Chan gazes intently at the shop and remembers how he used to save money to buy this expensive ice cream for Lulusing. Now he bitterly thinks that the money was a bigger waste than feeding a dog. He shakes off the painful memory and decides to enjoy the present. So he goes to the counter and surprises everyone when he hands out 10 stirrers of each kind of ice cream. The women whisper among themselves, wondering if this man can even afford it, while also complimenting his attractive looks and spending habits. But Vatis is a little skeptical and asks if he's really serious about such a large and northern man. She then explains that their products are high-end and the total bill will be over 20,000, asking if he's still sure. Just then, a woman with reddish-brown hair mocks him, insulting his clothes and calling him a pauper. She says that if he can afford it, she'll kneel down and bow. Chan slowly turns to her and with sharp determination asks if she'll really keep her word. The woman is slightly taken aback, but still maintains her composure, asking what his status is and if he really expects her to bow. Chan then, with a slight smile, calmly says that he gave her a chance to back down, but she turned it down. He bluntly says that nothing will stop him from bowing today. And as Chan stares at her with such confidence, the woman becomes enraged and begins yelling at him. But Chan completely ignores her and shows his phone to the trembling waitress. The screen displays a balance of over 20 million yuan. He then calmly tells her to pack up all the ice cream because he'll take it all. Seeing this, the waitress panics and says she'll have to call the manager. Moments later, Manager Fei arrives. Chan tells her to total up all the goods in the shop and that there's no need to keep the shop open for anyone else today. Fei is stunned by this and wonders who this big man is who is single-handedly buying up her entire monthly turnover. He explains that their products are very expensive and the customers earn. He then reports that the goods on display alone cost 70,000, but when the entire inventory is added, the total cost comes to nearly 1 million won. Chan thinks it's not too expensive a deal and decides he'll clear out their entire stock so he can enjoy ice cream at home when the apocalypse arrives. Then, fearfully, he announces that he'll transfer a deposit of 300,000 rupees immediately and orders the entire shipment delivered. They happily agree, addressing him as Brother Chan. After the deal is complete, Chan smiles at the two women standing off to the side, telling them to take whatever ice cream they want. Then he extends his hand and announces that everything is his today, and reveals his name as Chan Chio. Hearing this, the people standing nearby begin to admire his wealth and good looks. But then Chan Chio's face hardens when he catches sight of the rude woman. He clearly states that this feast is for everyone, not just him. In a cold tone, he reminds her that he's still waiting for her to kneel down on his lap. This confrontation reaches its climax. Filled with humiliation and fear, the woman is unable to speak. Unable to bear the pressure and the weight of her own words, she falls to her knees in front of Chan Chio, crying. Chan Chio looks down coldly, asking why she was pretending to be so tough when she couldn't keep it. Later, at sunset, Chan Chio is sitting on a bench in a quiet park enjoying expensive ice cream. He admits that the assassin brand fully lives up to its reputation in terms of taste. As soon as he finishes, he uses a supernatural power and summons a black and white object near his hand. Then he stores his shopping bag inside this dimensional space. He believes that this space keeps objects in a stable state, meaning his food will always be fresh or hot. He's surprised to see this, as in his original timeline, his abilities were awakened after the apocalypse. He didn't expect his special abilities to return. Looking at his hand, he realizes that this mysterious storage power will be his biggest trump card for survival. Chan Chio smiles and imagines a future where he controls all resources and celebrities beg him for food. Then, returning to reality, he plans his next moves. Safe house, cold storage, weapons, and energy. He takes a light breath, thinking about his reserves and the work ahead. Suddenly, his phone rings. The caller ID reads, "Save for the love children's little angel." Chan presses the key and thinks, how unfortunate it is that she's calling so early. Seeing her name brings back bitter memories to Chan Chio's mind. After his parents' death, she came into his life like a savior in dark times. But that image was a lie.
The reality was that she only wanted her parents' inheritance. She demanded a luxurious apartment in the heart of the city, fully paid for and in her name alone. Along with a hefty bride price of 880,000 yuan, she continued to control him, even pressuring him to sell the ancestral home. Calling him old and dilapidated, Chan Xiu vividly remembers that final betrayal. In his previous life, he finally sold the house to satisfy her greed. But the worst came when the apocalypse began and resources ran out. He sold Chan Xiu to a gang leader, handing her over like raw material in exchange for his own safety. Chan Xiu is filled with rage. He remembers that he gave everything to protect her, only to be sold like an animal. He remembers his horrific death, where he was eaten alive and didn't even die in one piece. Now a terrifying smile spreads across his face as she walks up to him, repaying this debt forever. In the luxurious hotel room, Chan Xiu answers the phone, and with a soft, concerned tone, asks why his babe is calling and if everything is all right. On the other side, Lu Wanxing, dressed in a bathrobe, acts dainty and lines, saying she was with friends and accidentally lost her gold necklace. She tries to guilt-trip him. Meanwhile, Chan Xiu, hiding a devilish smile, supports her and says, "Don't worry, he'll buy a new one." Instead, he says, "I'll buy 10 so she can wear them interchangeably." Hearing this, Lu Wanxing is shocked, as Chan Xiu has never been so wealthy before. Chan Xiu immediately lies, saying he's made a huge profit in cryptocurrency and now wants to spend it all on her. She becomes suspicious and asks if this is a scam, but Chan Xiu insists that he'll make an even bigger bet in the next round and is working on a grand scheme. He then explains that he's raising money for a major investment. He needs a witness for the loan and asks for her help. He also lures her with a 5% fee on the loan amount, setting his trap. Just then, Lu Wanxing emerges from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, and an old Kanjo complains about her taking so long. Lu Wanxing immediately turns sweet. She hugs him, calls him honey, and asks him to wait a little longer. But deep inside, she calculates that a night with this old man only fetches 5,000 yuan, while Chan Xiu is willing to pay 500 for an autograph. Therefore, she doesn't feel any risk, because she thinks Chan Xiu is a coward who would never betray her. After the call ends, Chan Xiu stares at her phone with red, frightening eyes, and whispers that he'll wait for her. Later, Chan Xiu stands outside a tall building, and decides that this is where he'll build his personal fortress. Standing with a contractor in the courtyard, Chan Xiu points to the building and gives a strict 1-month deadline. He declares that the building must be an impregnable stronghold. Then, without pause, he begins listing his extreme demands. Bulletproof glass for windows with hidden security images. Exterior walls must be made up to 3 meters thick. Concrete that can withstand even a magnitude 8 earthquake. The contractor nervously types on his tablet. Then Chan Xiu adds that the building needs a self-sustaining ecosystem, a 72-hour oxygen supply, a water recycling system, and blast-proof doors with biometric and mechanical locks. Then he adds that solar panels must be installed on the roof, a generator must be installed for guaranteed power, and a military-grade air filtration system must be in place. Finally, he summarizes that the building must be a combat-ready bunker within just 1 month. Hearing this, the contractor stares in shock, wondering if Chan Xiu is some doomsday-preparing man who's watched too many science fiction films. Noticing his hesitation, Chan Xiu challenges him and brings up his resume. He says he's worked as a defense expert for billionaires. The contractor hesitates.
The thought that this foolish woman thinks he's just a guarantor is playing out in her mind, when in reality, the entire debt has been transferred to his name. Zhang Yang smokes a cigar and smiles lecherously, imagining the day when Lu Wanxing will be unable to pay and will be forced to exchange her body for money. Sitting comfortably on the sofa, Chan Xiu is satisfied by all this. He knows that Lu Wanxing's greed is what he needed, as his signature has become a deed of sale, securing the funds for his safe haven. Sometime later, Chan Xiu stands with the contractor outside his fortified building. The contractor proudly declares that the house has been fortified to military standards, with thermal insulation and blast-resistant construction, capable of withstanding even a nuclear blast. Chan Xiu happily pays. The contractor, with a greedy smile, also asks about future projects, completely unaware that this money will soon be worthless. Alone inside his fortress, Chan Shao waits with his tablet. Just then, a news alert comes on. Unprecedented and intense solar flare activity. The television newsreader announces in a serious voice that the entire world is about to face an extreme heat wave. As people are warned to take precautions, Chan Shao calmly cleans his pistol. Bringing the weapon closer, he softly declares that the time has finally come. In the eerie red light of the room, gun in hand, Chan Shao confirms that the apocalypse has begun. His eyes are filled with cold and intense determination. He goes to the window and looks out at the city, where a massive, burning solar flare engulfs the sky, bathing the entire world in a terrifying firelight. Television reports again that the solar flare has struck Earth. Temperatures are about to reach 45 degrees Celsius, and people are advised to stay indoors. The heat instantly becomes deadly. Sweat drips down Chan Shao's face, and he knows this is just the beginning. The entire city is sweltering in a searing light, as if the sun has turned the metropolis into a furnace. People are already suffering. A woman tries to cool her burning skin by pouring water on her face. Leaning on a balcony, she complains that the weather is killing her and wonders how long it will last. On the street, a burly shopkeeper in a flowered shirt shouts into a megaphone. He tells frightened people that the temperature will rise further. There will be a shortage of supplies, and they should buy their last stock before rationing. Wiping his sweat, he doesn't seem stressed at all. Instead, he smiles, because this heat wave is an opportunity for him to print money. Some women come to his cart and ask him to reduce the price of watermelons. One woman bends down to examine the fruit, and the shopkeeper gives her a lewd look. He looks forward with a menacing smile, more interested in her body than in the sale. He leans over and says that if they buy 2 melons, they'll get a discount and free handkerchiefs. He also hints that they'll come to his house that night and enjoy his room. Uncomfortably, the women refuse. Still, he gets very close to the woman's face and pressures her to buy now, or else there'll be nothing to eat tomorrow. But when 2 men ask him to lower the price of water, he angrily shouts that it's a small business and no bargaining is allowed. As the greedy shopkeeper takes the box of supplies, he doesn't even notice Chan Shu watching him from the shadows with a cold, silent gaze. Chan Shu recognizes him as Li Fu and immediately remembers a painful and embarrassing scene from his past life. In this very same shop, Li Fu had shouted and accused a younger Chan Shu of theft in front of a crowd, twisting his hand and claiming he had held it, even though the child was merely picking up something that had fallen. Li Fu refuses to listen. He asks for money, and the people around him gossip, questioning his upbringing. They take his silence as proof of guilt. A frightened little Chan Shao cries and says he didn't steal, but no one believes him. Now, in the present, Chan Shao stands quietly in the same shop. The complete silence is a stark contrast to the memories of his noisy past. Then his eyes fall on the price sign on the shelf. A small packet of onion potato chips for 50 yen, with a label recommending the manager. Chan Shao picks up the packet of chips and taunts Li Fu, asking him if they are made of gold or do they protect against the heat. That's why they're priced so high. Li Fu, drenched in sweat, turns around, and Chan Shao's system activates. The news comes that the shopkeeper has been disrespected. Losing his patience, Li Fu quickly snatches the chips from Chan Shao's hand and yells, "If you can't afford them, get out of here." The system beeps again. Irritated and agitated, Chen Shao, completely unfazed, smiles slightly. Leaning forward, he teases his owner. If you accumulate so much treasure, thieves are bound to come, and in an ominous tone, he tells him to be careful.
Hearing this, Li Fu is confused. Then suddenly he explodes with anger. Pointing his finger at Chen Xiaowu, he threatens him and asks, "Who are you cursing me? Has the heat gone crazy?" But Chen Xiaowu remains calm and simply asks, "Has he been unable to sleep lately? He sweats profusely at night and feels weak in his knees." Hearing this, Li Fu's anger gradually subsides, and he admits, yes, that's what's happening. Then panicked, he mutters to himself, wondering if he might have touched something bad in the warehouse. Just then, Chan Chao approaches, grabs his face, and in a serious voice, declares that Li Fu's Yamtung has turned black, which is a very bad omen. The next moment, Chan Chao slaps him hard. Li Fu turns around and stumbles. His eyes blur, and after a moment of thought, Chan Chao says it seems to be a case of some kind of defect. The frantic Li Fu regains his composure and tries to kick Chan Chao, shouting, "Your entire family is full of defects." But Chen Chao easily dodges. While Li Fu is seething in anger, Chan Chao casually picks up a lollipop and jokingly says, "Take care of your health. Anger is bad for health." Then as he leaves, he tosses a coin and says in a cold voice, "If you don't take care, you might die young." Li Fu is trembling with anger. The coin falls to the ground with a metallic sound, and the system immediately notifies with a red glow. Anger plus pieces have been harvested from a single target. A few hours later, a black cat runs past the dark supermarket. Standing in front of class stores, Chan Chao recalls his past life, where he would swallow his anger in the face of a bully and vow to take everything back with onions in this life. A sinister smile appears on his face as he checks the system, as the emotions harvested from Li Fu are enough to expand his special storage. In no time, Chan Chao upgrades his combine ability, increasing the storage by another 200 cubic meters. A swirling black void appears on his hand, ready to swallow everything, and he confidently prepares for his revenge. The next morning, birds chirp peacefully outside the shop, and Li Fu, still reeling from last night's incident, heads towards his shop, completely unaware of what lies ahead. Chan Shu is watching him from behind the bushes. Suddenly, Li Fu stops. His eyes widen as he looks inside the glass doors. He rushes inside and freezes in place. The shelves, once filled with expensive goods, are now completely empty. Not a single item, just bare metal racks. Li Fu's face darkens with anger. Questions swirl in his mind. Where did all the goods go? And then, clutching his head, he begins screaming, wondering who robbed him. In his safe house, Choksu watches Dafu's breakdown on live video. The system reports that his suffering has generated 66 negative emotion points, and Choksu smiles with satisfaction as he sips a cold soda. Inside the warehouse, Li Fu screams in panic, enjoying his small but sweet meal. He keeps asking, "Who's Sarah?" The stock was taken overnight, and he collapses to his knees exhausted. Customers standing nearby conversing in confusion. Some suggest the store is truly empty. Others think Li Fu was just making a drama so he can raise prices later. Two women whispered that someone saw a dark shadow floating in the warehouse last night. Hearing this, Li Fu turns pale and thinks his store might be haunted. The invisible system interface telegraphs negative emotions from the crowd, and Chan Chao observes Li Fu's emotional output with a satisfied smile while eating chips. But then Chan Chao's eyes flash red. He decides to start another fire, and deliberately passing by Li Fu, loudly remarks how strong the chips smell. Li Fu is shocked to see the packet in Chen Xiao's hand, as the packaging is exactly like his missing stock. His excitement slowly turns to anger when he realizes Chan Shu is stealing his goods. Chan Xiao picks up the packet and taunts him again, asking if these chips are made of gold, making them so expensive. Thieves come to those who hoard treasures. Angrily, Li Fu shakes off his hand. Then grabbing Chen Xiao's wrist, he yells, "Tell me where you got these chips," and accuses him of theft. Chen Xiao feigns excitement. Then in a calm voice, he asks if he has any proof, and smirking, warns that accusing someone without proof can be costly. He mocks the empty supermarket, saying how clean it is, and offers the remaining chips to Li Fu as an insult. A helpless Li Fu is left helpless. Having lost both his honor and his goods, Li Fu decides to use Chan Shu as a scapegoat and take out all his anger on him. An enraged Li Fu rebukes Chanshu and accuses him of theft. He says that just yesterday he complained about the prices, and at that very moment, Chen Xiao's system registers a huge spike in the shop owner's anger. Chen Xiao immediately turns to the crowd and asks, "Does Li Fu think chips are only available at this shop?" He calmly states that the owner is trying to trick an innocent customer. People nod in agreement because chips are available everywhere. A sweat-soaked Li Fu is confused, wondering how the man who seemed so weak yesterday has become so confident today. Then Chen Xiao proposes a deal. If the stolen goods are found in his house, he will pay 10 times the amount. But if they can't find it, Li Fu will provide his backup generator. Blinded by rage, Li Fu agrees without a second thought. Approaching Chen Xiao, he vows to expose him today. The crowd arrived at Chen Xiao's house, and Li Fu's eyes widen as he enters. He sees the grandeur and splendor of the house. The expensive decor, crystal sandals, and luxurious vibes shock him to see Chen Xiao's wealth. Even the high-end clothing in the wardrobe leaves him stunned. In a panic, Li Fu opens the refrigerator and checks the safe filled with gold bars, but he doesn't find the stolen chips anywhere, and slowly begins to realize his mistake. Chen Xiao taunts him, saying he can even pull up the floorboards. Li Fu stammers there's no need to search any further, and tries to flee. But as he leaves, Chen Xiao's system registers an embarrassment search. Chen Xiao grabs his shirt and stops him, reminding him of the generator bed. Then, looking at the crowd, he asks if he's going back on his word. Trapped, Li Fu, drenched in sweat, requests him to take a step back and end the matter here. But Chen Xiao coldly asks, "Why didn't you back off when you framed me for theft?" The system notes a spike in impatience. When people mock Li Fu's dishonesty, he completely snaps. He shouts that he gave Li Fu a chance and throws a punch. But Li Fu easily catches his punch and twists his wrist. Li Fu falls to his knees, screaming in pain. He yells that his arm is breaking, and the system detects a massive pain spike. Unable to bear the pain, Li Fu gives up and promises to shift the generator immediately. Chen Xiao then coldly warns her to hurry,